1. I worked at what is probably one of the busiest restaurants in my hometown. We see about 300 to 400 customers a night, booked in with very tight 2-hour turnovers, as well as tons of walk-ins late into the night. After a year and a half of working there, I finally couldn't take it anymore and quit. I wish I'd done it sooner, to be honest. We got our rosters 2 days before the start of the week, and they would change at random. So one week you'd be working 5 straight closes in a row, and the next week you'd only have 2 shifts, both day shifts. Trying to plan a life outside was impossible. I was in charge of the biggest section by myself every night, except on weekends when they'd graciously allocate another waiter to look after the booths and the walk-in spots. I would have to look after, by myself, 19 tables. 19 fucking tables. This included 3 booths that could each fit 8 people, as well as 3 walk-in spots that were constantly being filled by new people. I also had the fun task of making sure people stuck to the 2-hour limit and were out the door before the next tables came in, which wouldn't be so bad, except for the fact that people suck and my restaurant would schedule it so that a 6 p.m. booking had an 8 p.m. booking straight after it, technically giving that 6 p.m. booking only 1.75 hours instead. I could always tell that the owner didn't like me very much, and because he worked 5 days as the head bartender, it made for really uncomfortable working conditions. That plus his obviously blatant favoritism. After so many times crying at work or crying after shift, after getting an angry text from the owner telling me that I'm not allowed to just change my availability without talking to him, angry texts when I've had to call off sick or have been sick at work and needed to go home, and just generally feeling mentally exhausted. I handed in my 2 weeks and offered to work them out. My reward was being taken off the roster immediately and told that I'm banned for the next 3 months as a cooling off period, something I and my fellow hospitality friends have never even heard of. Also, I'm 90% sure I'm the only ex-employee who's ever had this cooling off period applied to them. Sorry this turned into a bit of a rant. I'm just so angry at the way I've been treated after giving 1.5 years of hard service to this place and letting it physically and mentally beat me into the dirt. It just feels petty and insulting and personal. There's even more stuff than I've put here, but I didn't want this to get too long. Has anyone ever had a cooling off period before? I'm curious to see if maybe it's common elsewhere. Thanks for listening. 2. I work at a family restaurant where the workers are taken advantage of in multiple ways. I just read on Google about something that made me furious. A practice we have at my restaurant is that the server must pay 10% of their total tips to the packer and 50% of the DoorDash and Chow Now staff tips. There's only one server, one packer, and the kitchen working during shifts. It's a small restaurant. So let's say I made $80 in tips a whole day. 10% of that gets sent to the packer, who is the guy in the kitchen that just puts the meals in the to-go box orders or as garnish to dishes before giving them to me so I can give them to our guests. So out of $80, I get to take home $72, and the packer receives $8 from my tips on top of his hourly. The packers are 99% of the time the owner or the brother who is a manager. Google says it's illegal for owners, managers, or supervisors to take tips from their employees and servers. The owner justifies it because the packer is also doing a lot of work. However, I'm paid $3 an hour without tips, and the packer is paid $15 an hour without tips. Is this practice illegal? I live in Virginia, if that means anything. I have no idea about labor laws, and reading about it makes my head hurt. I wish I were smarter regarding this, but I'm just not. This is alarming because they've taken 10% of my tips every shift for months and months. This is potentially a lot of money that they've stolen from me, if it's illegal for them to do so. Something else. I get paid $3 an hour and work 3.5 hours during lunch and 5 hours during dinner, with a 2-hour break in between. Sometimes I only work lunch, sometimes only dinner. If I only work lunch, I'm paid $3 an hour, and if I make less than $40 in tips, I'll get $40 on top of that hourly. The packer, owner, still takes 10%. But if I work the whole day and make $80 in tips during lunch, then the owner will only guarantee $20 during the evening for the 5 hours. You may think it sounds ridiculous, because how would you make less than $20 in tips working in a restaurant in 5 hours? But I do, and so do the other 2 servers here. The restaurant sells about $3,000 to $3,500 a day. But it's 90% Grubhub and DoorDash, and we extremely rarely get tipped on those. The servers also serve alcoholic drinks to dine-ins, and those tips are still 10% to the packer. Is this a normal and legal practice? I've raised things with the owner, not that it's illegal, but they come with excuses and just tell us to find somewhere else to work if we don't like it, or to take more shifts. And then they'll change the policy. I and the other 2 servers really need this job to survive and can't find anything else, so please don't be nasty and tell me I deserve this. 3. I've worked with this girl, Kay, for over a year now. She has her good weeks and bad weeks, as I'm sure many of us do, myself included. But now this has been a bad 2 months for her, and she seems to target me exclusively. At first it was a casual friendship. We'd joke, and Kay'd tell me her life story. I would respond in turn, and she'd even come to me for advice on occasion. Until one day, Kay didn't like a joke I made, one that had been fine before, and she had made with me on many previous occasions. She has a habit of picking up lazy boyfriends who use her, so when she made a comment about a man picking cigarette butts off the ground and how sad it made her feel, I returned with, "That's how they rope you in." Kay blew off at me, telling me to mind my own business and stay out of her life. I was shocked. It was a complete 180 to the dynamic we had. But I listened and treated her as a work colleague and nothing else. A week later, she's getting offended by how I'm acting now, asking why we don't joke anymore, though not to me, to another coworker. I ignore it and move on because I feel as though she's not interested in rekindling a friendship if she can't talk to me. It was all fine and dandy until Kay starts sabotaging my work. In our cafe, we have stations. I generally prep cold drinks, display food for the kitchen, and pay off bills at the till. Suddenly, dockets from my station start disappearing. I don't think much of it at first, until I know I've seen a docket printout, and then the moment I turn my back, it's gone, while she's standing there wiping the same spot on the bench. I asked Kay if she'd seen a docket right there, where she was standing, and she said nothing had printed out. And it only happens when she's working with me. Dockets mysteriously fall on the floor or get thrown in the bin for some reason. But it's a petty thing and I can't prove it. I just make sure I can see the docket printer at all times. And suddenly it's not happening as much anymore. Then she's suddenly putting through orders at my station that customers never ordered. I'll make a drink, bring it out to a customer, only for them to say they never ordered it. When I ask her, she shrugs her shoulders and continues about her work. Kay says the customers did order it, but they must have changed their minds. In my life, I have never routinely had that many customers say they never ordered the drink just because they suddenly didn't want it. Then one day, I catch her counting the EOD sales and float. She has not been authorized to touch any money on the account. Money had been mysteriously going missing for months. When confronted by the manager after I informed, she said the owner had told her to do it. When the owner comes in and says he never told her to, she then says a coworker told her to, actually. Then the other day was the final straw. We have a shit point of sale system that doesn't have all the menu item buttons, so with particular items we have to manually write them in and send it to the stations it's needed. We have a new bagel on the menu, one which I have to grab and give to the kitchen, and I've made sure to tell her numerous times to make sure it prints for me so the kitchen doesn't fall behind, waiting for me. But she doesn't listen. Instead, she lies about it, swearing up and down that she put it in the system correctly, and that I'm having an attitude about it. I go to the till and pull up the order where it blatantly shows it didn't get put into the system correctly. She blames the system and says something else must have happened. I think it was finally being able to catch Kay in a lie which directly affected me. That validation hurt that someone who has been a nice friend in the past is routinely trying to sabotage your work. And it's not just that, it's the customers who suffer too as a result. So who else has had a coworker try to sabotage their work in hospitality? 4. I worked in a super trendy restaurant and lounge in a hip part of the city in the mid-10s. And I have so many outrageous stories from Friday nights and sloppy Saturdays. To this day, my favorite story is still the baby punting story. I was hosting, bussing, food running this day, just generally floating around the floor wherever I was needed. It was the weekend. It was packed. There was a huge outdoor patio and an indoor with tables and couches, etc. Every seat taken. Hour-long wait times with a lineup down the street. There was a young family sitting at a foretop by the bar at the back of the restaurant. Next to them was a huge table, normally to seat 6 to 8 comfortably, but had close to 12 or more spilling out and standing up. Young family has a 1-ish-year-old who is walking around. Most people think it's cute and whatever, they're at the back mostly, out of the way, since it's only servers who go past. Cue me carrying a full tray of glassware from the patio. It's summer. It's sunny as hell. The inside is like basically candlelight. My eyes adjust. I see the big-ass overspill table. I'm so laser-focused on not letting any of these rowdy drunks walk backwards into me. I see a server grabbing a full tray of drinks where I need to drop off, and my mind is like just imagining the accident waiting to happen. Then bang! I hit my leg, entire shin area on something hard. Somehow don't spill the tray. At the overspilled table, there are giant ottomans, and I legit figure I smashed one of those, as they're about shin height. That's how hard I hit this thing. Well, I'm sure you can guess, but cue my surprise to see a fully screaming child on the floor, kicking and flailing like a turtle on their back. Parents looking at me, just mouths agape. First reaction, pure bewilderment. I want to laugh. I can't believe that this would happen. Second, don't fucking laugh, you might get fired for this. I drop off the tray, start hyperventilating slightly, trying to prep myself to go apologize profusely. Mom walks over and apologizes to me. She says she's so sorry her baby shouldn't have been running around, it's too busy, etc. I was like, no, I'm sorry for punting your child. I know this story could have gone much differently if those parents hadn't been so chill. Which is why this is still my fave server tale, as I got to punt a child, free of consequences. P.S. Baby was fine 5 minutes later, and fell asleep while parents ate and drank in peace. Maybe I did them a solid? 5. We have a manager at our restaurant who isn't exactly the best. He's a nice guy, and whenever there's a small problem, I'm fine going to him for it. However, I've learned never to go to him when a party is complaining about their gratuity. I've heard of him taking off the autograt for parties before, whenever the customer has complained. I never saw it happen, until it happened to me. I had a party of 12. They chose to reserve the party room, so instead of getting a section with separate tables, I got that. They were my only table for 2 hours. It was a bunch of teenagers, an older sister, and the mother of the birthday girl. At the end of their dinner, I start handing out checks. It's really not that much, since they didn't order a lot. Each teen's ticket had about $4 added to it, some less. And the mother, she added the birthday girl and the older sister to her ticket, had $14 added to hers. Overall, the grat was $40-something. I leave for a tad to give them all time to get out their form of payment. I come back after maybe 2 minutes. The older sister calls me over and goes, "Y'all make $2 an hour?" So I tell her yes, confused as to why she's asking. The mom then says, "So what's up with this 20% tip added? I was gonna tip you, but to put like $4 on each of the kids' tickets and 14 on mine isn't right." So I give her the whole "for parties over 6 blah blah blah" discussion, and she asks to see our manager. The manager that was there that night was the one known for taking off the autograt. He goes up to them, asks what the problem is. He even asks them if the service was good. So they said that my service was good, that they liked me, but that they would leave their own tip. So it gets taken off. All of the teens leave me nothing, except for one who threw a wad of crumpled bills in front of me, which felt super disrespectful. And the mom left me $10. So I left there with a little over $20. I recently saw him take off a $76 grat for another server, and they tipped her $26. And all he did to make up for it was take $25 off the bill and give it to the server. I brought it up in conversation with a different manager who's pretty nice, saying that we should have it on our menus, even though the host and manager tells parties about the grat when they reserve, and how we shouldn't take it off. And she told me that legally we have to take it off when they complain because we're family-owned, not corporate. We're a chain. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 164. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like, subscribe, and comment, and share the video around with all your friends and family, and random strangers you find on the internet and on the street, while keeping a socially acceptable distance, of course. Alright, this is Saturday, and we're practically at the end of the month already. Isn't that delightful? Right, now, I did a gaming stream earlier in the week, quite a long one actually, because I was sort of in the mood to do it then, and I wasn't sure how I'd be feeling at the weekend. Things are kind of up and down for me at the moment. If I'm in the mood to do so, I will do one at the weekend, maybe a little bit earlier, but not as early as last week. I think I did it too early last week, and we didn't get as many viewers as we usually would, just because most folks weren't usually around. Okay. So if I do one, we'll do it a bit earlier, but not super early. Also looking into other games we can perhaps play. I mean, it's not really about the games, is it? In theory, it's about being able to chat to you guys. But chat sometimes slows down, so we need something to do when there's nothing to talk about. But beyond that, I hope to spend the weekend just relaxing and watching movies and catching up on TV shows. I have a very long list of things I've got on Netflix, Disney, Amazon Prime and such that are awaiting my very important attention, you understand. There may also be snacks and yummy foods involved too, depending on what I can be bothered making. Relaxation is often a judgment between how much effort do I want to put into setting things up to enjoy while I relax, and how little do I just want to do in general. Ah well, okay. no birthday no birthday shoutouts today, I don't think. So I think we're going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.